going on, guys? Today we're going to be taking a look at a neat little flashlight called the RovyVon A8. RovyVon's Aurora series made a big splash in the EDC world, and for good reason at that. In this video, I'll be breaking down both what I like and I don't like about their newest model, the A8 that I have here in front of me, as well as delivering my final verdict on it. I'd like to preface this video by freely admitting that I've only had the chance to play with the A8 for a couple days. However, I will say that I don't do shelf queens in my collection, and I regularly put my other flashlights through real-world use, so I generally have a very good idea of how something is going to perform, anecdotally at least. And to this effect, I'll be using my other Keychain flashlight here as a basis of comparison. Now, this is really an apples to oranges comparison because this flashlight costs 5 times as much and is custom made, but it should help to highlight some of the points I'm going to make in this overview of the A8. First things first, there's a lot of different models in the Aurora series. If you can't tell already, this is the 8th version of the Aurora, hence the name A8. Now here's a fun little fact. RovyVon actually skipped the A7 and went straight to the A8. My guess is that this is because 8 is lucky in Chinese culture, and they wanted the release of the A8 to coincide with the Chinese New Year. That aside, there's a ton of other metal options and LED options available, and I'll throw up an overlay so that you guys have a good idea of what's out there. Running through the standard specs that most people want to know, this particular model was $47 at the time of my purchase, and the flashlight measures in at 0.57 inches in overall diameter, 2.16 inches in length, and weighs in at 11.8 grams. So yes, a very light flashlight, especially because of the, I believe it's polycarbonate plastic. I'm not sure exactly what type of plastic it is, but it is very light. Also, the A8 is about the size of a thumb, which is a very respectable size for a Keychain flashlight, and it measures up very nicely against my other Keychain flashlight here. With that said, it is a little thicker, but that's to be expected given just how many features have been jam-packed into the A8. The package also includes a myriad of accessories such as a necklace, lanyard, and clip, but I posit that most users will opt for keychain carry given the quality of said accessories. So hint hint, not very great. Alright, let's talk about what I like. The first thing that's good here is the user interface. It's still a little bit complicated, but it's leagues better than previous models of the Aurora. In fact, the user interface on previous models was a big reason why I opted not to purchase this flashlight sooner. The A8 is using an E-switch, as you can see here, and this allows for a lot of things that wouldn't be possible on a standard 10180 keychain flashlight. Most 10180 keychain flashlights are twisties like this one here. This one's unique in its own right, but it is still a twisty nonetheless, and this E-switch here opens up a ton of possibilities, hence these secondary LEDs we're going to go over in just a minute. One small drawback I'm going to note of an E-switch is parasitic drain. This means that it's going to draw a small amount of energy from the battery over time, so this might leave you in the dark depending on how much it draws. The only time I'll tell that, and I can't know for sure at this time. And the first thing I'm going to demonstrate though is the momentary high mode, which you get by gently pressing on the switch and holding. So yes, very, very, very bright. And I believe that's around 300 to 350 lumens according to the specs. I'm not sure exactly which one it is, but either way, they're pretty much indiscernible from each other. That hold to get to the momentary high is to prevent accidental activation, and this is crucial, especially because there's a physical switch. That's not an issue with twisty flashlights like this one here. The next thing I'm going to demonstrate is the moonlight mode. This is 2 taps, and there you go, you get a gentle 0.5 lumens. And this is a moonlight mode done correctly, and honestly this shouldn't be significant, yet it is just because of how many manufacturers consistently botch something so crucial for EDC use. After you've got your moonlight, clicking the switch consecutively after that will take you to your low, medium, and finally your high. What's really unique about the A8 though, and a good reason why these little lights are so popular, are these side lights on the side. These are secondary emitters, and with the A8 you've got UV, red, and a secondary white. So you get that with 3 clicks. So there's your UV, better not look at it. There's your red beacon, and then it's 4 clicks for the white side light as well. And all modes are turned off by holding down on the switch. Alright, so the interface is good, albeit still a bit complex for most users. I think that most people will get it down in just a couple days though, and it honestly took me all of a couple minutes to get it figured out. That aside, next thing that's good about the A8 and the A6 I believe is that it's got a Nichia 219C LED. And although you can't see it on camera here, I'll still zoom in anyways, it's covered by the TIR optic. This is just a great thing. Previous versions of the Aurora used a Cree XPG3 LED, which is notorious for its crappy tint. With the Nichia you do sacrifice some brightness, but you're getting much better color rendering as a result. And this means that you'll be able to perceive colors more faithfully, which can be critical in color critical applications. It's really all a matter of quality over quantity, and everyone really has their own preference. With that said, Nichia is the correct choice for a flashlight like this, in my opinion at least, just because the high doesn't last very long anyways. RovyVon says that the LED is 4500 Kelvin, but to my eyes it looks much closer to 5000 Kelvin. I know it looks like 4000 Kelvin on camera, but in real world use it looks much closer to 5000 Kelvin. Most people won't care about this too much, but I know that'll be a point of contention for many flashaholics. All the same, it's a pleasant color temperature to my eyes, so what the heck. The final thing that I really like about this flashlight is that they've gone with a proprietary battery pack, and what's cool is that you can actually see the battery pack because of the clear polycarbonate plastic that they've gone with. And it's definitely not your traditional 10180 battery that this one here is using. The battery pack's unique shape effectively facilitates the addition of these secondary LEDs, which is really cool. And the AA also has integrated USB charging if you look closely here. It's very small actually, and it's got a little rubber port here for a USB-A cable. This is going to be a big plus, especially for techie people who always have their cables with them. While I would have liked to have seen USB-C for future-proofing, it looks like we're stuck with USB-A for now. And honestly, I don't know of any flashlights that use USB-C, but hey, I can dream, right? Anyways, let's talk about what I don't like. If you can't tell already, I'm very much polarized on this battery pack here. While it's cool that it allows for the stuff I outlined just now, it also means that it's not user replaceable. The battery will eventually wear itself out, inevitably, and then you're effectively stuck with a $50 keychain flashlight. And that seems to be the trend with a lot of enthusiast keychain light manufacturers have been pushing out, and that's for better or for worse, I guess. A good basis for comparison is this one here. I'll show you guys the 10180 battery it uses too. So this here is a 10180 battery, very, very small sucker, and you can see that it's distinctly different from this one. There's no way it would have fit in here with those secondary LEDs. But my point is that this thing is user replaceable, so this thing has a lot more longevity relative to something like this, regardless of the functions that it's cramming into here. So yeah, I'm very much ambivalent on this, but I just thought I'd point it out nonetheless. The next thing that I'm not a big fan of is the IP65 ingress rating. Just a quick recap for those of you who might not know what that means. The first number basically says that the flashlight is completely sealed against dust particles, and the second number means that it's generally water resistant, but not sealed completely against complete liquid immersion. So the AA will probably stand up to a good amount of rain, but completely dunking it is a no-no. And although most users won't intentionally dunk their flashlight, a 7 or 8 rating against liquid immersion is always a big plus. And I have seen a horror story of someone who had theirs go through the wash and killed it. And that's just not something you want to happen. Another thing I dislike about the AA are the use of PWM, or pulse width modulation. This is something that a lot of drivers use for efficiency, and it basically means that the light flickers very fast, to the point where it's almost imperceptible to the human eye. And generally this isn't a big deal, especially when the frequency is fast enough, but some people are particularly sensitive to it. And the PWM is noticeably slow on the AA, especially when you use a camera to pick it up. I'll throw up some examples on top so you guys have an idea of what I'm talking about, but it is noticeable. Not to my eyes at least, but I know some people will probably notice it if you're sensitive to that stuff. Things that I'm more on the fence about include the secondary emitters and the overall run times. So just to give you guys an idea of what I'm talking about in terms of secondary emitters, this is the red. As you can see, it is very, very bright. And I think that RovyVon intended for the red emitter to be used more so as an emergency signal, which makes sense for the red beacon here. But this really isn't optimal for the constant on red. Some people want to use the red emitter at night so as to preserve their night vision, similar to this flashlight I have here. This is the Boss 35. And this red emitter is excellent for preserving your night vision, especially when you wake up at night. And I think that's really a big feature for a lot of flashaholics, and you just don't get that with this flashlight. And likewise, the mode progression of the secondary emitters comes on with UV first, which just isn't optimal for this. So don't expect to use the red emitter to preserve your night vision by any means. Inevitably, runtimes are not great with a flashlight of this size, and I really think it needs to be said that you shouldn't by any means expect incredible runtimes from a flashlight this small. In fact, it's impressive that it puts out as much brightness as it does, albeit briefly, but that is some serious brightness. But that in itself is kind of what irks me, that the red secondary LED is so bright, especially when that's something that you generally use to conserve battery power. As it stands, and according to the manual at least, I believe the UV and the red respectively last for about an hour, which is not long at all. The medium and high modes will top out at about roughly an hour and half an hour, I believe, and that's not even accounting for step downs. And something else I want to point out is the mode progression, or in terms of output at least. So here's your moonlight, low, and look at the jump from low to medium. I believe that's 10 to 120 lumens, so that's a huge, huge jump, and it just doesn't need to be that bright for the medium that is. And you would really see so much efficiency gains if they just chop the 120 lumens down to maybe 60 lumens or 50 lumens even. I mean, you just wouldn't even, your eyes wouldn't even notice the difference either. That's just the way light works because your eyes perceive light logarithmically. And it's just kind of irks me, I guess. But in real world use, I guess I really wouldn't use the medium very much or the high, and I'd mostly stick to moonlight and low and the secondary emitters, but still, it's something that I'd like to see nonetheless. Regardless, big props to RovyVon for actually publishing an image of the runtime graph on high for this flashlight. A lot of manufacturers milk the ANSI standards, leaving most users to blow their battery on the high, expecting tons of runtime. And on that note, something that I really like about RovyVon as a company is their transparency and willingness to take user feedback and then actually implement it. And this is really the culmination of that. I might be a little salty that I never got a response to the email I sent about getting a review unit, but hey, I have to hand it to them. The revised user interface and the niche LED that was been implemented that make the A8 so compelling are the result of community-driven feedback. As it stands, I would assert that the A8 and some of the Aurora's more recent iterations set a new precedent for keychain flashlights. The progression has definitely been in the works for a while, and we've seen this with lights like the Nightcore Tip and Tiny, but RovyVon's lights, especially the A8, have set the bar at a whole new level. And granted, I do have a lot of nitpicks, but that's mainly because I'm a connoisseur. It's my job to give my objective feedback, and in my opinion, this is really the best keychain flashlight to buy, bar none. And that's whether you're just getting into EDC or you're already a big flashlight geek like myself. But yeah, I hope you guys found this review informative. If you did, be sure to hit that like button and to subscribe for future content. Thanks for watching, and peace.